There are publishers who think that they're creating verticals because they are organizing their content catalog vertically. So when you sign up, I'm interested in knitting, what they do basically is they just keep selling you knitting books. They're not really creating a community for knitters. That's been done by Ravelry and other places that aren't distracted by the fact that they have content to sell. So they focus on building community. But in fact, content is great bait for community. And community is how money is going to be made in the future. And it's very hard for a publisher who's got a book, we got to sell it, we got a marketing budget for the book, we've got to sell, so how is you going to spend the money? You're going to spend the money in a way that sells books, right? And it is, no, I'm actually spending money in a way that makes people sign up. I'm spending money in a way that makes them check the site every day. I'm spending money in a way that makes them sign up for my RSS feed. And they're going to look at you like you're crazy, but in fact, it's going to be the places that make those investments that will be here 5 years from now. And it will be the places that don't make those investments who don't. So thinking about what a vertical is, how to serve people in a vertical, how to make their lives better. And by the way, critical point, you cannot just live on your own content. There is no publisher on the planet that can. And one of the smartest things that's been announced, and I don't know, frankly, I don't know where it's gone beyond the announcement, but months ago, Tor.com announced that they would sell everybody's science fiction books, not just theirs. That they were recognizing, we're not here, Tor.com is not here just to be a marketing arm for Tor. It's here to be in service to a community of people who are interested in science fiction. And we don't own all the science fiction, and people in our community are interested in things that come from other places, and if we want to serve the community, then we can't cut them off from the stuff that comes from other places. And the publishers that do that are going to end up getting the content from the publishers that don't do that. And they're going to end up, and if Tor does this right, then 3 years from now or 2 years from now, the other science fiction publishers are going to look at Tor and say, oh my God, they're like Hay House. They can send out 1 million emails and market for free. And we can only send out 35,000 emails, and we have to buy space in magazines, buy space on other people's websites, and do other things to let people know about our books, which, by the way, if you have any books, because the authors are going to know where the marketing is being done, and the authors are going to march with their feet toward the people who have the audience. An agent told me that he sold a book to Random House by one of his Mind, Body, Spirit authors, and Random House sold 12,000 copies, and Hay House of the next book by that author sold 200,000 copies. And that is the difference between vertical and horizontal. Hay House does not have the power of Random House, except for Mind, Body, Spirit books. And then Random House doesn't have the power of Hay House. The last point, and then I'm happy to take questions, is these are the things we do, right? We tell stories, we present information, and we communicate ideas. Now, I did not include their reference, per se, because I think reference is getting increasingly difficult to justify in a print format at all. I mean, why would you look something up in a book rather than look something up on your iPhone? I mean, it's just really hard. I mean, only if you don't have an iPhone, you haven't learned how to use Google yet. I mean, you're 94 years old, and I wouldn't say 80-something because Gene's here, and he's 80-something, and he's got no problems with any of this. So it must be older than Gene. And if you haven't learned how to use Google yet, you still want to look it up in a book. But I think that's I don't want to use the word dying breed. It's a diminishing breed. So if you think about the fact that telling stories, presenting information, and communicating ideas is what we are experts in, and think about how to do those things without being rigidly attached to a format, then I think that is the key to being able to have a long career rather than a short career in books or whatever books turn into. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks to Mike Shatzkin. He's going to take some questions, and I'll let you do the pointing.
Yes.
Can you expound on why you think the long tail is killing the mid-list?
Yeah, I don't think it's killing publishers' business. With some exceptions, right? If you're Cambridge University Press, long tail's great for you, okay? Because you've got 12,000 titles on your backlist that have high prices, that have demand over a long period of time, and in the aggregate, you can make it make sense for you. But if you're Hachette or HarperCollins, okay, and you look at the backlist that you have, pick a number, sells under 100 a year, under 200 a year, or something that you would consider to be long tail, the aggregate that it's going to deliver to you is not going to be worth the effort. And meanwhile, all of that other content that is in the long tail that has been put into the 700,000 titles in Lightning or whatever is competing with what you're selling. And that's why it's making things more difficult for most publishers. Long tail is terrific for the retailer. It's terrific for Lightning. It's terrific for content converters. It's terrific for consumers. Great to have access to all of that old stuff. It's not good for people who are putting out a new book tomorrow. And another way to think about this, and maybe everybody in this audience is too young to appreciate this the way somebody my age is, but you can't do the Beatles again. When the Beatles happened in 1963, they were competing with 7 years of popular music, essentially, since Elvis Presley, okay? And what had happened when Frank Sinatra did in 1950 was not competing with the Beatles in 1963. There was very little danger that they weren't fighting for the same radio time, they weren't fighting for the same audience, they weren't fighting for the same jukebox plays. Since 1950, the music since Elvis Presley to today is all competing with each other. And today's 13-year-old might discover the next new hip-hop sensation that I don't know about, or they might discover John and Paul. And if they discover John and Paul, then for the next 8, 10, 12 albums they buy, they're buying stuff that was created 40 years ago. That's why nobody will be as big as the Beatles again, probably. And in that sort of four out of the top 5 singles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But also, breaking any band is harder to do than it was 20 or 30, 40 years ago because they're competing with a much larger body of work to get heard. And that is essentially, that's been clearer in the record business because in the book business, we didn't have a line of demarcation like 1956 and 1964. I mean, we always competed against whatever was available to be competed against, I mean, over time. But what's changed is there's so much more of it.
I've spent the last 20 years in the music business on the media manufacturing side.
Wait, sorry, we just